Hello everyone, my name is Attorney Arnold Bukoy. I am a teacher in WMSU College of Law, teaching right now Civil Law Review in the fourth year. And today I was tasked to give you tips in your bar preparation and how to ace it. So before we go to my tips, allow me to give you some disclaimers. Number one, there is no hard and fast rules in preparing for the bar. In fact, there is no proven formula. What works to some may not work for you. So it is very important that you approach the bar in your own strategy. So second disclaimer is that like any exam, the bar would want to test you on your fundamental knowledge. In this case, your knowledge on basic fundamental laws, rules, and jurisprudence, and other complex issues of the law, which is precisely the purpose of your entire 4 years or more in law school. And lastly, like any other exams, you can pass it because it was done by other people. So nothing stops you from passing it as well. So having said that, allow me to give some 10 tips in your bar preparation and hopefully how you do well in that bar exam. And of course, how you ace it. So number one, your bar preparation starts in your day one in law school. So it is important to acknowledge that as early as first year, you need to acknowledge that fact because that would define how you will perform in law school and in the bar. When we say you prepared for the bar since day one in law school, I'm not saying you approach your preparation as a barrister. What I am suggesting is that you should set a goal as early as your first year so that when you take the bar exam, you would be ready 4 years from now. So for myself, I knew that when I was enrolled in law school for 2013, I told myself that I would be taking the 2017 bar exams, and I considered my law school as my training for that one major exam. I considered that exam as a big game. So I felt that for me to do well and perform in the bar, I should be practicing it while on training, so while in law school. Like how an athlete would do in his trainings, right? So you can't do something in the ring, in the court, in the field, something for the first time without doing it during training. So if you want to really do well in the bar exams, it is important that you should be practicing that excellence or that performance during law school. So as I mentioned, I fixed my goal in 2017. I told myself that was my bar exam, and in fact, because of that goal setting, I made sure that I don't miss class, I don't track class, because of course I don't want to extend my stay in law school. In fact, because of that goal, I really made sure that as early as first year, I practiced my reading comprehension, I practiced my writing, and of course my grammar, because I understood that those are important factors in taking the bar exam. So the approach really is mental, in the sense that I believe that when you claim it and you set your mind on it, well, the universe shall conspire. So in fact, I changed my social media password to I will pass the bar exams in 2017. And that simple activity have always reminded me whenever I am on social media that this is a goal. Okay? So the second tip would be know your whys. So why do you want to become a lawyer? Why are you doing this? Who do you want to help? So whatever answer you would have for this question would be a valid answer. So it could be as great as service to fellow people, or it could be as simple as, well, at the moment you don't know what to do. And that is perfectly fine. So in order for you to know why you're doing it, this reason or rationale would necessarily help you to remind yourself why you need to continue despite the difficulty along the way. So knowing your reason might be a pressure to some, especially when you take the bar for the rest of your family, for your community. For some, it could be a pressure, but you need to find a way to look at it as an inspiration and draw strength from it, right? Because a lot of people want you to succeed, and a lot of them root for you. In fact, the moment they learn that you are in law school, they would automatically call you as an attorney, and they don't want you to fail. So these kind of inspiration could necessarily help you in the preparation of the bar by understanding why you are precisely there. Third tip would be motivation helps, but discipline is needed. So there's a difference between motivation and discipline. The former would not always be there, right? So there would be days that you will feel tired, exhausted, sad, and sometimes you feel that it's pointless. So I suggest that you take a short break, watch a movie, go out with friends, and trust that your discipline would help you go back and study again. So in order to combat those low days, your discipline is the answer. So discipline will help you manage your time, because if you set your schedule as this is your reading hours, then if you are disciplined, you would know that that scheduling is serious, and that you will not be using it for other matters. And in scheduling, you would also be able to manage your other affairs that are equally important. You could go on dates, you could fulfill your obligations in your family. So discipline helps you to manage and to make sure that you read your materials. So discipline would also help you develop the love of reading and writing, because there is no way in surviving law school and surviving the bar without undergoing the reading of long hours of reading and writing, digest, writing sample answers. So you need to master that as early as now. So the fourth, and sorry for, I think there's a noise in the background, but the fourth tip would be know your bar exam. So in order to identify what the bar exam is, you need to understand what it is all about, right? So they're not quizzes, they're not personality tests or beauty contests. In fact, this is not a test of fate. It is not a test of fate, it is not a test of destiny, and definitely not a test only designed for the gifted and the intelligent ones. The bar exam is a test on your working knowledge on the law, on the rules and principles in a chosen field of law, such as political law, labor law, civil law, tax law, commercial law, criminal law, remedial law, and legal ethics. So the examiner, when they give you questions, they don't expect you to answer the way justices do, right? They want to see the examinee as if the examinee is an entry-level attorney. So these examinees, among the 7,000 examinees, they want to see who among them are qualified to practice the law in the Philippines. So it's only working knowledge on the law, right? But why is it so difficult? Well, it's difficult because the laws are so wide and expansive, and your examiners are masters of their own field. So some of them are justices, lead practitioners, judges, some are law practitioners. So they really know the nitty-gritty of a specific law. So even if they would expect you to understand basic principle and answer these basic principles in your exam, they would be presenting this in questions that are tricky and challenging. So you need to recognize that. Of course, the bar also becomes difficult because of the time involved. So in your bar review, it would only be 6 months or less. So there's too short time to prepare and too many laws to read. So 6 months is actually not enough. And that's the reason why you need to study as early as now, because you want to have that foundation before you reach the bar review proper. So the fifth tip would be, after knowing the bar, you need to know yourself. So make an honest assessment about yourself. So ask the questions like, what are the subjects you're good at? And the subjects you feel inadequate, like your foundation is lacking. So in answering those questions, you could be able to prioritize studying based on the strengths and weaknesses that you have. Like on my part, when I went to the bar, my weaknesses would be taxation, criminal law. Yeah, those two. So in fact, in taxation, I really devoted a lot of time in reading on the subject, and I did well in my mock bar, but unfortunately I wasn't able to translate that during the bar, but I still passed the exam. So even if I was not a CPA, I was able to tackle the subject head on. So prioritize the subject based on your weaknesses and strengths, and moreover, by knowing yourself, you also need to protect your health, your physical and mental health. You need to understand that despite the fact that you're so prepared to take the bar, if your health is not okay, all efforts that you would do would necessarily not help you. So in fact, your health may be your number one enemy. So as early as now, be conscious with your health, be not only physical but also mental. When you take the bar, the main enemy or the dragon to be slayed is the bar exam, and you should not allow any other personal issues to cloud that focus or goal. Okay, so the sixth tip would be there is no shortcut. So a lot of students, like including me, fell on the strategy of reading compact reviewers and sometimes reading case digest found online. That would not necessarily help you. I mean, it could help you, like answering a quiz. It could help you answering a recit question, but definitely not on the bar. So as early as now, I want you to train yourself reading annotated books that are latest, like the books for civil law, like authors such as Robuya. Like for commercial law, we have Villanueva. In my case for taxation, Mamalateo and Dimaampao was really helpful to me. For revised penal code, it was Boado. And for remedial law, I really did well in remedial law because I was able to enjoy my reading with Riano. So a lot of good authors are there in the Philippines, and in fact that should be an inspiration to you, because you should know that the books that you're reading are the exact books that other barristers in the Luzon, in the Visayas are also reading. These top performing schools, their students read the same book. So there's no reason why you cannot perform well, right? So for my 17th, you need to avoid unnecessary comparison on your pace in relation to other people, because a lot of your classmates or other barristers may have their own rhythm and they have their own strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes they could study the law with ease, maybe because they have a background knowledge, like they are a CPA now, or maybe they had legal management as their basic core. So some of them have advantages, and that is good for them, right? But that does not discount the fact that you also have the chance to become a lawyer yourself. So don't be disheartened. Just because someone is so fast in understanding the law doesn't mean that you cannot understand it. Again, the bar is a personal exam. It's a personal journey. And if that is the case, then understanding the law is also a personal problem. And you should just focus on yourself. So you do not be bitter, do not be afraid, do not be anxious. Just be focused on bettering yourself. So that's it. My 8th tip would be to perfect your writing and basic grammar. Of course, I understand that the bar exam this year, due to the pandemic, has been computerized. So a lot of people will be answering in the coming bar exams through the use of laptop and an app. But of course, even if that is the case, I do believe that the written exam would come when the situation permits in the future. So even if you're online right now, you're studying everything online, you're answering your exams on Google Forms, I still suggest that you practice your writing, especially that if in the future the written exam will be imposed again, imagine that you'll be writing for the whole day. So 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon, for the whole subject, answering like 20 to 30 questions. That would be really, really hard for you if you do it for the first time. So if you make your notes, you make your own digest, you practice your writing. As you go on, your writing improves because you want the examiner to be able to read your answer. In practicing your writing, you could also be practicing your grammar as well, because you will be writing it, right? And not just relying on the verbal communication, because when you write, you could pinpoint the grammatical mistakes as you review it, right? Writing also helps you visualize in studying, and this helped me not only in law school but during the bar. Like if there's a question that I'm not really familiar to, or I'm familiar but I kind of forgot, sometimes what helped me is that memory, that visual memory where I felt that I wrote it in this page, and by just contemplating I could be able to get an idea what my answer would be. So this visualization has helped me, and that would help you too. My ninth tip would be, there's no need to memorize the law. No one can memorize the law. Even lawyers forget the provisions of law, and when they make pleadings, they don't make pleadings on their own. They check Google and check those provisions. They check the books, right? So no one expects you to even memorize the law. Even your examiners and the justices don't expect you to 100% cite the provisions verbatim. If you must memorize, however, because we do acknowledge that memorization does help to some extent, you memorize keywords, important doctrines, but the ultimate goal is really understanding it the way you understood it and communicate it effectively. That's how your examiner would appreciate your answer, not just by lifting random provisions without knowing the context. So in answering, now that you don't rely on memorization, your answer must be firm and exhaustive. There's no need to cite a specific provision, especially when you're unsure. Just go straight to the answer and give the legal basis or legal principle. You could cite according to the family code, according to the criminal law of the Philippines, and that would be perfectly fine. So while memorizing provisions of law is not expected on you, the update on latest jurisprudence is indispensable, because your bar questions are often fact-based and they are inspired by jurisprudence, and so therefore it's important that you always read your cases and update your latest jurisprudence. Like for family law, before we've learned in our time that non-compliance to Article 40 makes the marriage bigamous, but in 2021 that is already not the ruling under the court, because according to the court, Article 40 did not amend the law on RPC on bigamy. So these are concepts that you may not find right away on the printed books, because these are development that happened just recently. So again, reading cases is indispensable, and you must start doing that, right? And the last tip would be to live your life. Don't forget that before you became a law student, you are a daughter, a son, a parent. You're also somebody's friend or somebody's jowa, right? So you also have other obligation aside law school. So don't allow law school to define you or consume you. You don't let law school control you. You should control your life with law school, right? We should not glorify ourselves being too busy as if it's like a badge of honor, posting on social media that, well, these are the digest cases that I'm doing, or these are the books that I'm reading. And it's not that healthy. So we should not glorify being too busy. We must find time to make sure that we focus on our health, on our socialization, on our affairs, and our relationship with other people as we become lawyers. So in becoming a lawyer, you can fall in love, you can take that new job, you can take that promotion, you can do other things, right? Improve yourself outside law school. You should not allow law school to hinder you and make you miserable, because if that is the case, often than not, you give up in the long run because you feel that law school is a jealous mistress and it's an enemy, and it's not something that is feasible in your life. So allow law school to challenge you, but not to the point of controlling you. So to end, I would like to use the important close that I have been using in my bar preparation, which helped me pass the bar, and which is, the studying of the law is difficult, but it will be worth it. So thank you again, and welcome to College of Law.